Imagine you're planning a road trip to Las Vegas. You know your ultimate goal is to drive to Vegas without running out of gas, but there's more to it than that. Every step of your journey has its own set of specific directions that will help you reach your ultimate goal. For example, you may have to make a right turn, exit onto interstate, find a gas station, exit and take various other turns to get gas, and then get back on the road. Like driving to Las Vegas, a well-developed course will utilize various smaller objectives to help students reach their ultimate course objectives. But writing measurable objectives can be a challenging process for instructors. Informing students of the objectives is the second step in Robert Gagne's 9 events of instruction. However, it is often difficult for instructors to determine what is measurable and how to properly align an objective with assessments. In this video, we will explore the process of writing clear, measurable objectives and aligning them with course content. So before we get too far into the specifics of objective writing, it's important to note the difference between course objectives and lesson objectives. Course objectives are the specific skills students will have accomplished by the time they complete the entire course. So, on our road trip, the equivalent of course objectives would be to drive to Las Vegas and to keep your gas tank from emptying completely. Lesson objectives are the specific skills learners will accomplish in each lesson you teach along the way. So, on our road trip, these would be the specific directions you get from your GPS and the specific steps and stops you make to get gas. It's important to note that you can't complete your trip to Vegas without following the directions. Similarly, your students' accomplishment of the lesson objectives should contribute to their accomplishment of the course objectives. This is called alignment. Alignment is a term that ensures that all assessments, activities, and course materials are tied directly to a lesson objective, and that each lesson objective is tied to a course objective. But before we can focus on aligning our objectives, we need to be able to write clear, measurable objectives. According to the Quality Matters standards for course design, both course and lesson objectives should be written from the learner's perspective and describe outcomes that are measurable. But how do we write these measurable objectives? To get us started, I've written some objectives about writing objectives. The first is to identify the particular skills that will be assessed in a course or lesson. So I would suggest making a list of topics that your course will cover. The more broad topics should go into your course objectives column, where the more specifics will be in the lesson objectives column. The next step is to select appropriate action verbs from Bloom's taxonomy to assess these skills. We'll talk a little bit more about Bloom's taxonomy later, but this is the part where you just select exactly what your students will be doing. And last, we will write measurable objectives using these action verbs. In order for an objective to be measurable, it needs to be assessed. The easiest way to explain this is that you should be able to see what your students are accomplishing. You can see that a student has calculated or revised something, but you can't see that they have learned or understood something. This is where action verbs from Bloom's taxonomy come into play. Developed by a team of educators in the early 1950s, Bloom's taxonomy classifies objectives by learning levels. When selecting verbs for your objectives, you should consider the learning level of your course. A higher level course should focus on more higher order thinking skills, such as analyzing or hypothesizing. It is also important to note what the students will be doing. If your students are taking a multiple choice quiz, your objective should not use verbs such as describe or analyze. Just like if your students are writing a compare and contrast essay, your objectives shouldn't use a verb like criticize. The objective should match the task. If your goal is to get to Vegas, you wouldn't instruct someone to take a boat there, right? Here are 3 examples of concise, measurable objectives. After reading The Great Gatsby, students will categorize 5 major characters as either static or dynamic and defend their decisions. So you can see the action verbs categorize and defend. So if this is an English course, it could easily translate into a written paper. Students will analyze the decisions made by the United States government during World War II. You can see the action verb analyze there, which means it's probably a higher order skill for a paper or project. And last, students will research a topic and present an informative speech that meets the guidelines of the rubric provided. So you can see 2 action verbs there, research and present. Additionally, you see the information about the rubric, which tells students how they will be measured. Now it's time for you to start working on objectives for your course. If you need any help, contact CODL at codl@ku.edu or 785-864-1000.